and maybe not.
That was a really short message.
Well, I'm hitting the start button, and nothing is happening. So I don't know. This is a brand new board up here, Sean. I have I'm afraid to hit something
okay.
up.
We'll
just keep going.
Work through it.
Sorry, yeah. Chris. It's not that I didn't try. and it's flashing, ready for a break. I know, I can't make it work. So anyway, to your point, there's no free lunch. There are degrees of risk. If you buy a CD account and because you know that money is safe, that it's safe in the context of you're not going to lose any money. But again, to your point about teaching how things move, Sean, you could actually be suffering inflation risk because the bank isn't going to pay you 3% above what the CD rates are to cover inflation. They're just covering their cost. If inflation's running at 6% and you're getting a 5% CD account, you're losing money, and your buying power has been diminished, and that little tiny concept by itself misses the mark on a lot of people. So there is to the stock market, there's huge upside potential. There's also huge downside risk. And so with annuities, folks, for those of us that do annuity work, there's a couple things we can promise you. Dare I say we can guarantee you, because the insurance contract is going to guarantee these things. First, your principal, short of maybe a fee that might be involved, everything being equal, your principal is secure. If the market takes a dump, your money's not going to go with it. In a traditional annuity or a fixed indexed annuity, your money is safe. That's why we call it safe money, first. Second, depending on what product or option you want, you can go into what's called a growth annuity, which is nothing more than we're going to mirror image, let's say, the S&P 500 or the Russell 2000. You're not ever in the index. You're just mirror imaging it. So on the day you buy the contract, if the S&P is sitting at $2,000, I'm just using numbers for purposes of illustration, and the next year it's at $2,500, you made a 25% rate of return. That at least the index did. Now, did you actually get a rate of return of 25%? Probably not, because the insurance companies also know that they're taking all the risk. So a lot of these annuities may have caps or spreads on them. A cap is nothing more than we're going to let you have up to 6% or up to 5% or up to 4%. That's it. Or they might say the spread is 5%. Everything above 5 you keep. We get the first 5 no matter what happens. So that, to me, that's fair, because your principal is safe. You're in the market. If the market doesn't perform per the contract, you didn't lose anything. Now, you might say, well, if I was in the market last year and I wasn't in the annuity, I could have made more money. Yep. Could have lost money too, right? Yep. Now, here's the other part. Your financial advisors, I don't care who they are, if they're just doing mutual funds or stocks or bonds or what have you, and you've got a large portfolio, $1 million, $2 million, they cannot, and I may get in trouble for this, Sean, and I'll let the chips fall where they may, but they cannot guarantee an income for you for life, because all that money is tied up in the market. And while the markets are going up, you can follow what's called the 4% rule. I have $2 million. I'm going to pull 4% out. That's $80,000 a year. I can cover that, no problem. And my portfolio should earn 4%, should, quote unquote. And in which case I'm net even. Now, a couple of problems with that. First, if you need $80,000 gross or net, and you're pulling it all out of a 401k, you forgot about taxes. That's first thing. The second one is, what happens if the market does correct itself and you lost 10 or 20%? Let's say you lost 20. You had $2 million. You lost 20%. You're down 400 grand. You still need 80,000 to live. With these annuity contracts, they are guaranteeing you an income for life. Let me say that again. Guaranteeing an income for life. So if you drop in $500,000 and in 10 years you're going to pull out 60 grand and you live for 30 years, if I'm doing my math right, Sean, that's $1.8 million?
I think so.
Did you win the bet?
You won the bet.
Yeah. You only dropped in $500,000 and the insurance company guaranteed you at age 65, 60 grand for the rest of your life and your spouse. So you pass away, the 60 grand continues to live along with your spouse. So, yeah, you won the bet. Your financial guy can't do that unless he offers you an annuity. Then, and he can do more than I can do, or anybody in my chair. So don't poo-poo the idea of an annuity. Do your homework. Ratings are meaningful. Ratings of a company are a big deal, folks. And let me put that in perspective. This doesn't have to do with an annuity. But, Sean, you're familiar with MetLife, right?
Sure.
All right. So MetLife sold their life insurance block of business to Bright House a couple decades ago. There is a index called the Comdex in life insurance. And for really good companies, you're 90 and above, 92, 93, 94 and above. When MetLife sold their life insurance business to Bright House, they were probably around 90, 91. Bright House just sold their life insurance piece. I'm not sure, I can't remember where it sold to, but they just sold it. Sean, take a guess what the Comdex was for Bright House when they sold their life insurance piece.
Jeez, I don't know.
78.
I don't even know what the number.
78. 78. Those life insurance policies that those people have with Bright House are now in junk status. That's what that really means. So they bought a really good company. Maybe they bought a whole life policy or a overfunded universal life policy. But if your insurance company isn't running efficiently and isn't doing what they need to do to make sure their policyholders are going to be safe, that Comdex number is going to rear its ugly head like nobody's business. And so ratings mean things. And the size of a company and their assets mean things. So there's a lot of advisors, yours truly included, will not represent B-rated carriers. Period. Full stop. Won't do it. If you talk to your advisor, talk to somebody like me, who can go through the dog and pony show of helping you understand what you're buying, and then think about it. Don't just jump at the first thing. It's no different than, as Sean was saying before, of getting out of the market as your ship is sinking. Well, if you plug the hole, the ship won't sink. Don't get out too quick. And I'm not going to say it's easy to do. It's not, folks. It is not easy to do that because all of your hard-earned money has been eviscerated within a couple of days. What did I hear, Sean? Something like the Big Seven, I think it was, lost something like $700 billion or some ginormous number over the last couple of days.
Big Seven you're talking about are like Alphabet, Meta, those kind of stocks, correct?
I think so, yeah. And the NASDAQ is already in correction territory.
Well, and a lot of people are saying, and the story coming out of the White House, there's been no reassuring coming out of the White House. Yeah, that's true. The Trump has kind of avoided those questions. It's scaring the bejesus out of people because if they're hearing the word recession, and it's scaring people to the point where there's people that are taking money off the table, and if you think of companies like NVIDIA and Google and, well, that's Alphabet now, but Meta and some of these large tech stock plays, a lot of people were just long those stocks and maybe way, way, way overweight in those stocks. And now they're just getting their, handed to them because people are pulling out. And, the earnings have to be crystal. And if they're not, then they're taking big hits even though they make their numbers. And it's just, people are looking for safe harbors everywhere.
And this is what happens, folks, is that you get this cycle of people that normally don't trade and watching their portfolios go down like the Titanic, and they start selling everything, and that's what causes a market to, dare I say, to crash. It's one thing for computers to do some of the stuff that's going on right now, but if this continues any longer, I promise you there will be millions of people across the country and around the globe that are on the phone with their brokers saying, get me out of this thing. Get me out. I need my money. Get me out. And at the end of the day, remember, Sean, I've always said, I don't care that you've got a pool of money or $1 million or $2 million. Income drives your wagon. It's the pool of money is an ego thing. And I'm not beating you up for it. I'm giving you a standing ovation. If you were able to get to $1 million or 2 or 5 or 10, that is beautiful. You are a stud from a financial planning perspective. At the same time, you don't live on a pool of money. You live on income. And I had a discussion today with a client, and she's waffling on, do I quit? Do I not quit? She's 6 years away from being vested in her pension, and she's 66 years old, so she really doesn't want to work all the way to, mid-70s before she can get her pension plan. And I told her to get that. So I told her to sit down with her husband and do a quick and dirty, how much do we need to sustain and maintain our lifestyle? Mortgage, utilities, food, play money, gift money, vacation money, emergency money, whatever monies you have, line it up. And then take your net income that you're bringing home every day, and then take a look at Social Security, because that can plug some of the hole if you're eligible for it or if you can take it. And you got to be careful with that, folks, because if you take it too early, there are income thresholds that you have to manage. And if you take too much income, I promise you, as God is my witness, the IRS will ask for most of all of it back when you file for your taxes at the end of the year. So be careful when you're asking for Social Security early, unless you're not going to make a lot of money after the fact, which is fine. Just have to pay attention, because the rules are structured in such a way that they're complex and they're not fair to the average person. They don't see the ugliness coming on the backside when you start to file your taxes, and you're like, uh-oh, we're in trouble. So Social Security can help plug things, but if you're too early to get Social Security, if you're 60 years old, you can't get it. And let me just add one other thing about that 60-year-old thing, Sean. There's this concept called the black hole. Have you ever heard of that before?
No. Interesting.
So I'm 5 years older than Sally.
Okay.
Sally's not 60 yet, and I'm not 65 yet. And I'm not eligible for my full Social Security retirement until I'm 67, which is fine.
Right.
But if I die tomorrow, she cannot get my Social Security. She's in that space where she's not eligible to get my Social Security as income.
Huh.
So the only...
I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah. So for those of you that, I don't want to buy life insurance, this is why you buy life insurance. If for no other reason, to plug that black hole until at some point your spouse can get the decedent spouse's Social Security money. And they probably can't get it till 60. I can't remember if it's 60 or 62, but they certainly can't get it when they're in their 50s. And if you see a lot of these, people that are marrying the, what do you call it, the trophy wives that are 20 years younger.
Yeah.
That's why you hear these commercials, and Big Lou had them buy a policy that was 3 times the one you had for your other ex-wife. Well, there's a reason.
Well, it's funny. I'm lucky. I must be the trophy husband because my wives are older than me, or wife, I should say, not. Never mind. Go to commercial. It's interesting because you talk about that because we were watching television the other night, and a woman says, "Honey, I had the worst dream last night. You were killed in a car accident, and me and the 3 kids, we were left with nothing."
Yeah.
And he says, "That doesn't sound right." And what they wanted to, what they were talking about was buying insurance, right? But if you think about it, even if you are the breadwinner, the ganze Macher, right? You bring the big money in, and your spouse doesn't. You still have expenses when that person, if something were to happen to that person, and life insurance may be the right way to plan for that too. So. Yeah, there's a lot of people that, I've heard them say, life insurance, that's a scam. And I've heard other people say that annuities, you don't buy annuities. There's a big investment advisor out there that talks about, the evils of annuities. But when you read their literature and you listen to their sales pitch, they're selling you on what you call your father's or your grandfather's annuity.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I'm not pro annuity. I'm not negative to annuities. Everything has its place.
Right, and it's not. I think on my promo when I sent it out today, not everybody is qualified to have an annuity. I've had a handful of people come to me with $100,000. That's all they had, and I could not, in good conscience, take that money because if something happened to them medically. Now I've put them in a situation where they have to pay penalties to get it out. And I could not in good conscience live with that. And it turned out my gut feeling was right. I did have a client who ultimately passed away from cancer. And it was 2 years after he wanted me to do something with half of his money, and I couldn't do it. And other advisors would take half, no problem. Maybe even lie on an application as to what you have as a client, as to what you have in other resources, because there are underwriting questions that we have to go through, not health questions, but how much money do you have in liquidity, so that if something happens, this annuity is not your stopgap. This annuity is there for keeping it safe if you don't need it or if you want income from it. If those things don't line up, then maybe an annuity is not right for you. Whether you have $100,000 or $1 million or $10 million, everything is relative to what do you, Mr. Client, need. What do you need? Not what the investor, or not what the advisor wants. If you have any inkling that the advisor is not in your court, run for the hills. I know there's an investment company out there, several of them out there, in fact, that will say, we make money when you make money. Mm-hmm. Okay, let me put that
in perspective. We do better when you do better.
Yeah, that's right.
Tagline.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, but let me just put that in perspective, folks. So you have $1 million, the market takes a 30% hit. He was making 10 grand on you, 1% of your portfolio, and everybody was happy, hunky-dory with that. The next day you wake up and you're down to 700,000. He's still making 7 grand. There's a part of me that goes, fiduciary? Who just took a bath here?
Well, that's true. If you think about somebody that has, say, $1 million and they pay a 1% fee, that's $10,000.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Well, you could lose 10%, right?
Yep.
They're still going to make 9 grand.
Yes. Yeah, you lost 100, and they only lost $1 grand. Who got hurt?
And there are great advisors out there. Don't get me wrong. And I've worked with some great ones, and I've worked with some not so great ones. And the thing is that you need to be careful who you quote unquote get in bed with, because they all say that we're looking out for your best interest. Well, they should be. They're handling your money.
Yeah.
But are they, and they make more money? Well, sure. If they made me $10 million, You can take 10 minutes. You can take 1% of that. I'm glad.
Yep.
But did you just sit and watch me lose 10% over the last 3 days?
Yeah.
Did you make any trades? Did you see this coming? And everybody talks about their crystal ball or their Rubik's Cube of destiny or whatever it is they use. But, and a lot of times people go along with it because they see that big win.
Yep.
And there's the people then that, start not being able to sleep at night because money's, wrapped up in it, just as the way it would be with an annuity where you couldn't invade the principal in time of need.
Right.
You might be able to, you might pay a little penalty, but it's still reassurance.
And by the way, there are a couple of, we don't talk about products here, folks, but there are a couple of products that if you ended up in a nursing home situation or home care where you couldn't do 2 of the 6 what are called active daily living things, like you can't bathe yourself, dress yourself, under certain circumstances, you can invade the principal and have all the penalties waived. So, so there are things out there that are available. It's up to the advisor to find out what is it that is going to make, what is it that you want, Mr. Client? Like, Sean, what do you want, right? Don't answer that question, it's rhetorical. But what is it that you want to have happen? If this, then that. And you evolve that dynamic of conversation until you're ready to go, yeah, I like this, or you know what, I just can't get, I can't get past this. I'm like, okay. My attitude is, you're the buyer. I want, if you want to buy this, I want you to buy it. I don't want to sell it to you. That's my attitude. And there's a lot of good advisors that take that approach. And there's other ones that will sell you down the river for a song if they knew they could make a commission out of you. So we're coming up to the top of the hour, Sean. And so, folks, I'm glad I'm back. Sean, thanks for having me back. I can already tell that my laryngitis is starting to affect me. I've already gone through 3/4 of a bottle of water here since we started the show. And before I get started in asking you about our little tease that we started at the beginning, just one little tidbit. A few months ago, there was a open mic place in Antioch that called me up and said there is a Christian label that's coming to our venue. And he called me up specifically amongst other people that he called, and they said, Bill, you have material they're going to want to hear, because he's heard me play. Now, he hasn't heard the last 2 Christian songs I wrote, which I think these are, well, at least one of them's really good, maybe both. So we'll see what happens. But right now, Sean, I can't sing. I can't. My laryngitis has overwhelmed me. So if anybody has any tips, I know I've heard the honey thing. I've tried that. Don't laugh, but honey makes me fart. So I've tried hot water, sitting over a boiling hot water pot and putting a towel over my head. That works, but it's very hot. So if anybody else has got any ideas to get rid of this laryngitis, because I have a week to get my act together. And then if it doesn't happen, then it doesn't happen. But if it does, we'll see.
So one of the things that you can do to improve your laryngitis is stop talking.
Yes. Yeah, right. In my business.
Yeah. But, when I was a kid, I had really bad asthma. So I coughed a lot. And I had a hard time. And I would lose my voice on a regular basis. So sitting over the hot water is all about the steam and the moisture and the humidity going up into your nasal passages and into your lungs. So a humidifier. I have one in my bedroom.
Yep, we have that right now too. The last 2 weeks it's been on. Yep.
And then the other thing is that everybody sells you Ricola and
yep.
all these menthol and things. Is my doctor would always tell me sugar candy. Just get the Rock Sparkles or just anything that you can suck on that gives you kind of that sugary, just kind of going down the back of your throat and cutting it, because that's kind of what honey's there for.
Yep.
Is just to coat your throat. And even then, things like no alcohol, but you don't drink,
Yep.
and stay away from dairy causes.
Yeah, as much as I like milk, I've been kind of resistant in drinking milk while I've gone through this. Yeah, so I'm with you on that.
But juice can help, and tea. I drink a lot of tea.
I have something, it's called stress relief that I tried today. It was pretty good. No honey, just stress relief, and it had a nice taste to it. So we'll see how that goes. Before we run out of time, Sean, let's talk about the Radiothon, folks. This station, WLCB 101.5 FM, Slade's Corner, Wisconsin, is having a Radiothon 24 hours, right?
It's actually going to start at 9 a.m. in the morning on April 4th.
Okay.
And it will conclude at 9 a.m. on April 6th, which is a Sunday.
Oh, wow. So more than 24 hours.
Yeah, and the idea behind the Radiothon is to raise funds for WLCB. So Bill and I have talked about this in the past, but WLCB is a nonprofit 501c3 corporation, and which owns the radio station, which Chris and I manage. Chris is our chief engineer. And we exist for the sole purposes of providing information to our community of Slade's Corner, Wisconsin, as well as the world through the streaming that you may be listening to right now or through your Alexa device. And like everybody else, we have money. We have bills and we need money. So what we're doing is this Radiothon, and what we're doing is encouraging our producers to come in and do their shows live, because we have a lot of people that pre-record their show. But like Bill, who guts it out every week on the front lines, doing it live, and he can only get through it with that fantastic coffee maker that he brought in. But I digress.
Yes, sir.
But what we do is we ask our producers to come in and contribute by doing their show or by doing a show that isn't necessarily what they do every day. For instance, my wife and I are both members of the station, and we're going to come in on Saturday night, and we're going to play. She was a radio host in Bowling Green, Ohio, and so she's going to reconstitute, reinvigorate, revive her radio show called Odds and Ends. And then I do the Rock Fossils Rock Garden on Monday nights at 6 o'clock. And so we're going to collaborate, and we're going to bring our flavor to the air for 2 hours. I was talking to Bill about maybe it's the, what is it? Passing time?
Engaging time.
Engaging time?
Yeah.
And so maybe it's an hour of engaging time originals, or maybe it's that music, that sultry, silky, smooth voice of Bill Miksch, voice and spinning those discs. So
yeah, and Ted Reynolds, who is a producer on the station here. I got to get a hold of Ted, and because he's asked me to bring my guitar in for one of his shows, since he does a lot of original stuff.
Mm-hmm. And that's what community radio is about. So you're listening to Bill talk about insurance and annuities and financial planning, and there are folks on this station that have devoted their lives to certain music. We have blues devotees, we have jazz. I mean, Bob on Monday nights could teach a class on jazz. As a matter of fact, there's been several colleges that have said his show is required reading. So. And we get comments from his students who are listening to the show as part of their classwork. Ted Reynolds plays the Blues Plate Special on Fridays. We have the Red Pill Radio on Thursday nights. And it gives people who have a passion for radio and entertainment a chance to entertain you and bring you maybe programming you wouldn't find everywhere. And all we ask for that is a donation. $5, $10, $3, whatever you got. There's a link on our website, lakesradio.org, and what we'll be doing is talking about the shows and the music, and then asking, like the old PBS telethons, asking you to make a donation in between episodes of Big Valley or something like that. But we're looking forward to it. It'll be fun.
Yeah, and I'll touch base with you about your show, and we'll figure out coming out what that looks like and etc. I'm kind of if I got a voice, I'm looking forward to it. So Sean, you have a great night. It's that time of the night where we have to say goodbye, but it's not goodbye. It's see you next week. Hopefully, hopefully the flu stays away. This is your Insurance Corner at 101.5 FM. That's Sean. I'm Bill. You guys see you next week at 6 o'clock Central Time. Have a great night, everybody.